I want to bring in Nawaf Al-Thani, Qatar's former Director of Defence Intelligence Operations and Defence Attaché to the United States. Thank you very much for your time here on BBC News. I just want to ask you, we understand those talks are going ahead right now. What is Qatar's role in those?
Well, Kari, thank you for having me, first of all. Right now, obviously, Qatar continues with its role as a lead negotiator, in addition to the United States and Egypt, the other two partners in this negotiation, to hopefully reach a settlement in, quite soon. Unfortunately, we've got two opposing forces or actions right now that are rapidly developing. On one side, we have the negotiations, which seem to be in its 11th hour. Hopefully, we could get some good news soon. But on the other hand, we have the IDF's operation on Rafah, laying the ground for a ground offensive, also moving rapidly in the opposite direction. And both are in the 11th hour, and it seems that whichever, hits the midnight point first of success, either positive or negative, may be the determining factor. Unfortunately, we're very close to the wire at this point, and it's very hard to determine which one will succeed.
There are obviously absolute key players in these talks. Do you think realistically that we will see any development over the next coming hours?
I think, yes, there is a good chance of success. Unfortunately, we've said this in the past, and negotiations have broken down in the past. However, all indications seem that it has been developing in the past weeks quite well. There have been adjustments made. The Israeli Prime Minister has put some roadblocks along the way, unfortunately. But as a reporter said, the U.S. administration, the Biden administration, I think pressed the Prime Minister of Israel to go for the possible rather than the perfect at this point, which is to humanitarian pause, release of hostages, and bringing aid to the civilians of Gaza who are currently in their last refuge in Rafah, are being bombarded and unfortunately maybe even under a ground offensive.
And as you said, we know people are crammed into Rafah. I'm presuming that their safety will be a priority in those discussions.
You're absolutely right, Kylie. Right now, I'm sure the issue of Rafah is looming over all discussions in Cairo when it comes to the peace negotiations right now and a hopeful humanitarian pause. Again, these are two opposing forces rapidly developing and coming to a head almost simultaneously. And I think the European Union, Great Britain and the United States should use every measure of power that they have over Israel to slow the military process and give the negotiations a chance for success now that we're this close for it to be a successful round of negotiations.
We know, of course, that there have been some very strong words from Benjamin Netanyahu about his plans for operations. Realistically, do you think there is an opportunity for ceasefire imminently? If we consider those comments that he's made.
Well, there is an opportunity, obviously. I mean, the very developed stage of negotiations that we're in right now, as reports indicate, are proof that there is an opportunity. And obviously, previous successful negotiations also is a proof that this thing can work. Unfortunately, also we've seen the Prime Minister and the new Conservatives and the Israeli government always thwart a lot of these efforts at the last minute. Unfortunately, right now, there is, again, as I mentioned, an ongoing military operation for the last relative refuge of the Palestinians in Rafah that is really looming over everything. And the clock is running out. And unfortunately, we may not find another opportunity if we miss this one.
Nawaf Al-Thani, thank you very much for your thoughts there.
Thank you very much for having me.